Welcome to the Mischief. I'm Velen, and this is LittleTiles. Today we're going to be covering the little particle block, which makes all these wonderful things that you see behind me here. And, of course, I'm going to be thanking one of our patrons, Super Noggins. Thank you ever so much for your support and patronage. So, all this crazy wacky stuff that you see going on in the background is just the tip of the iceberg, as is most of the cases with anything LittleTiles. First, you're going to need a little particle block. This little guy here is made of some gunpowder, coal, and so on, and you get an entire block's worth, which is great because that means you have a lot. Each little bit of one of these will count as that, and you can, drop it in your little bag as you would before, but it doesn't draw like you normally would with a little chisel. For instance, if I try drawing like this, it's a little bit weird how it works. Because if you don't have it, anyway, let's start over here. These are the little bits that you're going to need, the little particle blocks. You can actually place one. Like this is a full block here that I have. If I place it down on the ground, it'll only show up as one little tiny pixel. Don't change these into 32 mode or higher than that. And you can't control C or C with these. You have to edit them after you place them. But then you can replace them with edited modifications to them. Let's start down at this end here. So if I were to place a block, let's actually place this one here. Boop, it instantly becomes one of these little things here, and it's difficult to see where it actually is. You might be clicking around before you finally figure out where it is. If you hold a little wrench, you can then eliminate any particles that it generates while holding that wrench. So therefore you can aim your cursor at it, scroll off of it, and right click. And then you have access to all sorts of stuff. You have a drop down menu of all these different effects that you can choose from, or you can scroll one at a time through each one. It's pretty darn cool. None of them are going to save until you actually click the save button, as is the case with most things. This way you can still take a look at it and not worry about editing this thing while you're messing around with it. So what are all the different things on the menu? Each different particle is going to have a different option. For instance, the smoke and large smoke, you see it's got these different meters here. This is going to be your X, Y, and Z coordinates for the direction that the particles flow. Then you've got your speed particles per tick. So if I reduce this, it will generate smoke less often if I reduce it. If I increase it, it'll generate the smoke particles more often. That's simple. Randomize will basically randomize the duration of the particles in most cases, and this will change the duration of the particles in most cases. Now, some of these will change depending upon the particle because they're not all the same. So, you notice here, I go to Instant Spell. This one here has eliminated XYZ. It just has a spread option, which will allow it to spread things out and so on. Some of these options might be like color options or the speed or size or something like that. But for now, let's get into each one of these ones so you can see what they are. Of course, you've got your standard smoke. Now, to give an example of how this might affect things, let's increase the Y and click Save. And you can see it really shoots that smoke particles up very fast at that point. Let's reduce it so that it's much less. In fact, we can even change the this, and it shoots off to the side. We can change this. It's going to shoot kind of like at a different diagonal. Let's click Randomize. Save. And you can see it's now going to take those angles and kind of shoot it in every single direction. I can reduce it further so that it's a lot slower to do so. And then it's going to be a little bit more of like this crazy puff machine. That's pretty cool. Now, as I said before, I'm going to increase how long the particles stay out there for this one in the duration. So therefore you're seeing a lot more of the particles is what it looks like. It's just that they're not expiring as quickly as they were when it was set around 1. So there you go. And if you want to, again, you can reduce this. Let's make it 0.1 instead of 1. And you can see it very rarely will put the particles out. If I put it at 10, it's going to be 10 times what it was before and be this crazy smoky mess. Just remember, if you put too many particles on the screen at once for any of this stuff, you're probably going to have some kind of laggy issues or whatnot. I can't even see where it's at. There it is. Okay, now I can click this. I can reset it to whatever I want it to be. In this case, let's make it back to zeros. And I will change this to 1, save it, and there's your standard smoke particle. Yep. And then we've got your large smoke, which has all the same features on it. It's just much larger displayed particles. Then you've got your instant spell, which if you click spread on this one, will help to spread it out a little bit. It doesn't just go straight up anymore. And of course, you can increase the randomize on this, and it will make it a little bit longer of a duration as before. So you can kind of get those instead of like a smoke particle if you want to stuff it in a chimney or something. But that's just the idea there. I mean, spread definitely will help make it, well, spread. Moving on, we've got spell, which has also the spread option. I currently have these set for a little bit more pleasing of a visibility. They all default to 1. But if you have something that defaults at 1, in this case I've got it at 0.5, let's do safe. You can see it gets really crazy with the particles. Sometimes I reduced it just so that it is easier for you guys to see what the particles actually look like in this setting. Now if I click spread, same as with the spell effect, it's going to kind of shoot it out in a random direction around it. Then we've got this, which is a sweep attack. And this, as you notice, has a different option in here as well. Oh, just ignore the giant fish that went by. We'll get to that one. I reduce this one a lot because it's difficult to actually see them. They will go so fast. If I increase this to 1, it's gonna be really, really crazy, as you can see. And I've got it randomized. Let's reduce that. And then that's all it is. This meter here will increase the size of it. So let's do this, make it go all the way up to 2, be this giant scything blade or whatever. We can randomize it, bring it down to this, and then we can always change it back to 0.1 like I had it before. And then you get these random slashing effects in an area. These are all based around where the particle is. If you notice, the slashing effect is still going to be going like this regardless of what facing I have on it. It's not going to be facing in one specific area. That's same thing with pretty much most of the particles. Then, of course, you've got a note block, which you can see here. You can change some of this here, and it will change the different colors and so on that you have options for, which is pretty neat. You've got your speed and, of course, your randomizing options, same as before. Nothing really fancy there. You've got lava, which this one is really good, but again, if you increase it, it just gets absolutely crazy with the amount of particle effects that you have. You can randomize it as before, and it will change things up a little bit more for you. Then you've got these. This is actually large explode. There's an even bigger one. I don't know why this isn't explode and the other one's large explode, but it's just how it is. So large explode. Let's increase this one. You can see this is more the standard size. It's more used for just a little explosion, and you can always randomize that and so on. But if I go over to this one, I reduce this one to a lot of negative numbers. Huge explosion, because it is pretty darn big. Let me reduce this one just so it doesn't get in the way as much. And if I do change this to 1, you will see it gets really big. It's a really big explosion area. That's pretty darn huge. Let's see, was it this one that I was on? I can't remember. No, that's large explode. Oh, hold it. Okay, this is why you need to have these things so you can edit this stuff. Otherwise, you're going to be hunting for 1 pixel somewhere in all this mess. So you can do you can do 0.00001. So it rarely happens. There we go. Oh, so much better. Now you notice that none of these actually have any. My volume is currently on right now. Just the music is turned off and the weather turned down. But these things don't generate sounds. They're just for the images, so you don't need to worry about making massive explosion sounds or anything. Now, this one is just a slime. Just gives the little slime particles and so on. This one's kind of cool. It's a barrier, so if you don't want somebody to enter an area, you can turn that on. And if you have, for some reason, you use this and you notice a lot of the particles stop, but not all of them, just wait a second. Eventually it will. It's just sometimes it takes a moment for it to catch up. And again, I've just got it set at 0.1. It doesn't really matter for this one. Randomizing and changing this doesn't really do anything. It just stays where it is, because that's all it is. It's just a rotating no symbol. I guess you can use it for a do not enter. Now this one here is pretty cool. This is depth suspend, and it will just kind of generate these little slow kind of smoky particles. You can randomize this, increase it quite a bit, and let's actually make this a little bit more. We're going to do 10 instead of 1. And it'll start really filling out this big smoky circle area instead, which would be very difficult to kind of see if it was up by your face, but you get the idea. Now, this one here, you probably have all seen, Angry Villagers. Again, you can just change how that one is randomizing it and so on. You've got your happy villagers, which does the little green particle. Speed particles per tick. I really turned this one down because otherwise it's just this constant like line of green that goes crazy. Again, I randomized it so that they would kind of spread around a little bit instead of all being on the same spot. This here, we've got witch magic. You can spread this one out, same as some of the other ones, so that it will actually, here, let me save that. There we go. So it will kind of distribute a little bit more randomly instead of just kind of hovering straight up. Then this one here, I also have reduced quite a bit. We're going to do 0.1 for this, and that's still going to be a lot. And you can see it kind of does the, oh, that makes me sick. It makes the guardian show up. There we go. I just got back from barfing in the bathroom. But anyway, let's continue on to this one. We've got red dust. It's not necessarily red dust. You can make this be different colors. You can make it, see, if you increase this, it changes the colors on it instead. And let's make it green. Actually, that came out yellow because its default is going to be is going to be green. So it's all, or the default is red. So by adding in these colors, it's going to change it accordingly. So by adding red to red, it's going to be even darker red. Adding this, adding yellow to the red, it's going to make it kind of orangey, and so on. So it takes a little bit of getting used to try and figure out the colors selection on this one sometimes. But otherwise, it works pretty cool. And you can randomize this, speed it up, and so on. And it's just a really neat mechanic. Then you've got this one here. You've got drip water and drip lava. They're both the same, just different colors. Basically, you've got your water dripping, and you can change the direction it goes in. Just remember that it's constantly going to go down, no matter where you have it going. So if I wanted to go like this, it will still drip out in that direction, but you can see it's going down at the same time. So if I change this so that it goes up, it will, oops, and I actually remember to save it. So let's do that, save it. You can see it goes up for a second and then just goes down again. So it's not exactly going to be very effective to shoot things straight up like that. But you can, of course, randomize and stuff and hope that you can get some little sprinkler effect with this thing, which is pretty cool. You can increase this so that it's more like a sprinkler effect. As you can see, some of you may have already seen some mods use a similar effect like this in the past. But let me reduce this because that is a lot of particles and it's causing a little bit of lag for me there. There we go, much better. And of course, lava is pretty much the same way. You can have a lava sprinkler if you want. Everything is just changing it in the same way that I just showed you with the water drip. Then you've got your flame, which I've got it set right now so that fire kind of shoots in a random area. If I undo that, and I change this so that it is zeros, and I save it, you probably recognize this as a little animation that pops up from the furnace in your regular vanilla Minecraft. Then here we've got splash. Now splash is a little bit more tricky. It basically just creates this little tiny blue particle. Let me turn off this sprinkler effect here. This is kind of going a little bit crazy. Okay, now you can see that it just does like this little teeny tiny little blue splash particle. You might be able to change it a little bit, but it doesn't really do too much. I mean, that just kind of brought the little splashy particle over by a couple pixels at best. I mean, it's not really going to go crazy with this one. So it's not very configurable, but you still can do some of this with it. It's just a little tiny splash effect. But anyway, moving on, mob spell. Again, you can colorize it if you want, making it really cool. And then you've got your end rods. As I've got it going straight up right now, you could have it go down a little bit instead if you want. You could have it go up and to the side. You can randomize that. Oops, randomize, save. And it'll shoot out these little light particles from end rods. Then you've got your mob spell ambient, which these, again, are like the others, but it's somewhat transparent. So it's kind of cool how you can make that work. Then, of course, you've got your damage indicator. I have this one set to just constantly popping hearts straight up. This is, again, just directional and how often. Then you have your crit meter. Same thing as the hearts. It's just shooting straight up. You've got your fireworks spark, which I have shooting straight up. Most of these are XYZs. There are a few that are a little bit different. This one's XYZ with your magic crit. And then, of course, this one is a little bit more different. Your enchantment table, which I have it going straight up, randomizing it so that it shoots these particles out. If I reduce this to all zeros, you can see that all it does is it just drops the little runes. And so therefore, I added a bit of variance to it so that it would start kind of shooting these runes out in different places and bringing them back into the center. Then, of course, you've got your heart, which doesn't have any XYZs. It just has how frequent you want the hearts to load. Then snowball is very similar to the slime in the fact that it just kind of does little snowball particles. And you've got your dragon breath. Same as before, you can modify XYZ, how randomized it is. You can have it go straight up or around in an area like I have right now. But you can edit these a little bit more with your chisel. So for example, I've got 4 different ones up here. Let's say that I have one of these. It is a little particle block. I set it there. It is smoke particles. I want it to be spell ambient save. Okay, right? And I want it to be red. Well, I want multiples of these. I don't want to have to go through and click that on every single one of these little blocks. If I were to just choose this with my chisel, little particle block, and I just keep it as 1 in box and stuff like that, and I don't have it set on anything besides 16 or less, then you'd think I can just paste that, right? Well, that little bit didn't do anything. Why not? Because you have to tell it what you want it to do. By doing so, you have to sneak and middle click this, and then you will get that exact item. It's just like if you're in Creative, and you can paste it again, and it will put a duplicate of that exact one in that spot. Now, if I choose an entire area to paste this, it's going to be the last pixel, I think it is, that does that. I don't think it's going to be the entire thing. No, I guess it is going to be a little bit more than that. Oh, because I've broken it up into multiple squares. You can only have one of these, I think, per? No, you can have multiples. But anyway, it's not going to be quite as easy to distinguish if you drag and drop. And it's actually going to be a bit wasteful. So I recommend you just do 1 pixel at a time, just like a double click or something with that, if you've got it set to box instead of line or slice or something like that. And that'll allow you to kind of copy paste it. And then you can always put a whole bunch of different effects nearby, top of each other. You can have it so that you're having a lot of fun with this thing. Do not enter, and you can have like little effects going on of explosions and whatnot. It's pretty crazy what you can do with this little mod. I hope you guys enjoyed. Be sure to give a like, comment, subscribe, and as always, be sure to catch us on Twitch, most nights around 10 p.m. And we also have a current competition that we're going to be starting up next week. So please be sure to check that out. Click it up in the corner over there and check it out if you haven't checked it out already. It's only like a couple-minute video, nothing really heavy or anything. And I will see you guys next time.